All right, last week Dennis taught on step 8 and on making that list, and he mentioned this inventory list, and so I printed some off, and I think there's more of them. This side, I just stuck that over there, and I'll just pass them on back. This really goes, like I said, with the lesson from last week. But there's some things because 8 and 9 are so meshed together. I mean, they almost really ought to be taught together all the time because they are linked at the hip for sure, okay? And so making that list is critically important. Here's something I want to point out on this, and it's not by any means to throw stones at any other kind of group, but just from my standpoint to make an explanation of how I think 8 and 9 roll. I know some groups, or I've heard other people at times talk about that you need to make a list of all the people that you have harmed and that have harmed you. And then at times they even talk about making amends to both those groups. Here's the deal. You can't make someone say they're sorry. You got to keep your side of the street clean. And so if someone has harmed you, now I do think from a Christian perspective, you need to work yourself to a place where you can forgive them, but you can't make them apologize. And I know people that have gone to other individuals and with an explanation somewhat like, Robert, I forgive you for hurting me. Whatever, and he ain't even sorry he did it, you know. And then what's that? What's going to happen with that conversation?
It's going to go south.
It's going to go south really quick. So in this recovery, it is very personal, and so our focus needs to be on keeping our side of the street clean. And therefore, what have I done? What have I done? And that's all you can do. Now you can work yourself to a place where you can forgive people who haven't even asked for forgiveness. And that's a powerful, powerful thing to get there in your mind. But in my way and in my thought process is I only encourage people to make a list. Who are the people that you have hurt, either by your physical actions or by your words? And let's deal with that. And for most of us, including myself, if I can get that list taken care of, the other list kind of is already taken care of itself, and that's a big enough project in and of itself that I don't need to bite off more than I can chew. All right. So with that said, as if you want to use that as a template, and there's plenty, like Dennis told you last week when he mentioned it, that's a tool. There's plenty of tools. It's just all about being able to significantly know, yeah, I did that. And not to, no devil made me do it, cop out. I did that. I said that, whatever the case may be. And then getting to a place where you are willing to make amends. And that's huge. I think last week when I came up at the end talking about that, is once you've got that list, your responsibility is, first of all, to get to a place where you are willing to make amends, and then prayerfully to ask God to open that door. To, if I need to talk to Robert, to be, okay, the opportunity presents itself, I'm ready. I'm going to say something. I'm going to deal with that. But I'm going to trust God to open the door. Because when we try to kick the door down, when I'd say I'm bound and determined, I'm going to go tell him I'm sorry, even if he doesn't want to talk to me, then that's the more harm than good, and we're checking off boxes, not really trying to make amends. All right? And there's a huge, huge difference between the two. Huge, huge difference. Depending on, I think, and this would be the case of whatever a person's wrestling with, even if it has nothing to do with a substance or of any kind, that kind of addiction or issue, we all need to be willing to make amends. That needs to be part of our kind of language, especially if we call ourselves Christ followers. If we have been in some sort of unhealthy lifestyle, whatever it might have been, the length of the list and the time it takes to make the list is dramatically different. You know, if you've been running crazy for 20 years, 30 years, and you think, well, I can sit down tonight and I'll make my list. Your list is going to be way too short. And it's not necessarily because you don't want to, you just can't deal with it that fast. Because you know what the human mind does as a coping mechanism? It forgets things. It forgets things to keep from dealing with things. And there are some things that we realize we are hurt so bad because we've realized that we've caused so much hurt that we push it so far back that it's not that we're intentionally leaving it off the list. We truly forgot it. And that's another reason why developing the list, it's critically important. I don't care if it's a sponsor, an accountability partner, a best friend, but somebody that knows enough about the scenario that can ask the tough questions and say, hey, Clay, what about X, Y, Z? Hey, Sean Allen, what about, remember back when we were like, and you told me you did, remember that? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then if you're helping somebody do that and they say, I totally forgot, guess what? They probably did. They probably did, because that's part of our coping mechanism. And so that's why I think it's so critically important to have a person, and I don't care what you call them, mentor, sponsor, accountability partner, friend, but somebody that has at least enough insight. Like if I don't know you, I don't know your thing, I don't know your people, I don't know your crew, I'm not going to be any help to you, because I can ask some general questions, but people that kind of know and that you've shared enough with, either because you've told them previously or they've watched it going down, can say, hey, what about this? What about this thing? Also, I think it's important when you're making the list, and I'm getting to amends, okay, trust me. But when you're making the list, I think it's critically important that you, on your list, get specific. That you don't cop out when you go to make the amends with, hey, Ken, I'm sorry for anything I've ever done to you. I guess it's almost better than nothing, but just barely. Just barely. And that's you know, I think forget amends. Just when we pray to God and people want to pray God, help me be a better person. Duh. Okay, okay, no, what's going to help? What's going to make you a better person? Because if I forced you to say right now, everybody stand up, and I'm going to ask, what one thing do you know right now you need to do to be a better person? We would all have something. We would all have at least one thing. So why pray to God in the generic, help me be a better person? Why not ask him, God, would you clean my language up? Help me clean my language up. Would you calm my temper? Because he already knows, and you already know, so let's get real and talk about it. And so when we're making this list of amends, and let's just say it's a parent. Let's just say it's a parent, and you lied to them, you stole from them, you may have gotten physically abusive with them. When you're making the list everything. Own your junk, and it will cleanse you. It will cleanse you. Because then when you say to that person, I'm sorry I lied to you. I really am. I'm sorry I stole whatever. I really am. I'm sorry I put hands on you, if that's the case. I really am. See, when you're saying that, if I was saying that to Ken, and we had been, and when I say those things, I'm confirming to him that I really know what I did, that I truly know what I did.
You're owning it.
I'm owning it. I'm not just throwing a blanket over it where it feels like, well, guy's working through a program and he's got to do this to kind of check off some boxes, and he really isn't owning his stuff. He's really not making amends. But when you start getting specific, even to the point of, I don't know how far you need to go back. I think anything that was madness driven. When we were in Louisville that night and I did X, Y, Z, and you're acknowledging, yeah, I know the moment. Right. I know the moment that I crossed the line that I shouldn't have. Then for you to truly make amends, that's when it starts to make sense. It's like, I do a lot of marriage counseling. Kim and I do a lot of marriage counseling. And when, we're dealing with a couple and he or she, doesn't matter because it goes either way, says, I'm sorry for everything I've ever done.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of stuff. Can you be more specific?
Bull, because you don't even remember everything you've ever done.
Trying to go get a milkshake.
Yeah, it's like, and then they wonder why the other male, it doesn't matter because it goes, but they wonder why the other one's going, yeah, right. Yeah, I've heard that before. Because they're not owning your own stuff. But there's something about when you've made your list and, let's just pick a person, your parent, your dad, if that's it, your dad. What are the things that I did that I need to own? And you start listing as many of them as you can remember. And then you start having, the time comes and you start having that conversation. As soon as you start listing specifics, you've got their attention because they're now knowing, all right, we're dealing with real stuff now. Right. With your spouse, if that's the person, whoever the person might be. So it starts with making that list, taking that as a template or getting something else and starting to say, okay, yeah, I did this. Now, another reason I think it is imperative that you don't rush through making that list is that when you take the time to write down some of those things, if you're truly on a road to recovery, there's some of that that's going to hurt you. There's some of that when you come to the point and you realize what you did, it's going to break your heart. And there's going to be that time that needs to pass for a scab to come over the open wound. All right? Because part of when we get to amends is to, except when doing so will harm you or the other person. Sometimes there's some things that we just need to let lie. It is what it is. We just need to, because if I do it, because when I verbally get abusive, if all of a sudden, and Diane is one of the sweetest people I've ever met in my life, I can't imagine it, but if I just lost it and started yelling at her, which I can't imagine doing that, but if I did, I promise you the next day, I'm going to be sick. There's going to be something in me that's like, what were you thinking? And then if 6 months later, I've decided I'm going to work through things and I'm making a list of amends, and I remember the time I yelled at sweet Diana, and there's a part, it's going to be like pulling the scab off the wound because it's hurt her, and she's got an open wound when I do that. But then when we start realizing and dealing with it, we have an open wound. And I think for the most part, we don't need to deal with some of this stuff when wounds are open. We need to let the wound heal both ways. And then to gently address it so that it's not yanking a scab off and reopening the wound. So that's all of I think, making the list and going through, we tell the little kids that, that Santa's making a list, checking it twice. If Santa can check it twice, maybe we need to. Maybe we need to dig deep enough that we really think, is there stuff I need to deal with? Now, what you may do is you may make a list. You may think that you've done it. You may start working through the list in terms of actually step 9, making amends. And as you're working through the making amends, you find yourself in a conversation with someone where you're making amends, and it triggers a memory of something you totally forgot to put on the list. What do you do then? Put it on the list. Add it to the list. And it's like I said last week when we were finishing up, this is step 9. The next 3 weeks when we starting to talk about steps 10, 11, and 12, really steps 10, 11, and 12 in their own ways are repeats of steps 1 through 9. It's the maintenance portion of recovery. And so sometimes in that process, you're going to think about, I've been clean for 2.5 years and I've worked it, but doggone, I just remembered what I did to old so-and-so. I just remembered that I stole his lawnmower and went up to Jerry's pawn shop and sold it and went and bought some. And I'd totally forgotten about that. Well, so what do you do then? Start back over with a blue chip? No.
Go buy a lawnmower.
You add it to the list. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. When you're like, part of making amends is, I'll get there in a minute, is make things right to the best level that you can. To the best level you can. So yeah, absolutely. If you stole something from somebody and you still got it, give it back. If you stole something from somebody and you don't have it anymore, either get them a new one or put it on your list of like, okay, I don't have the cash right now, but as soon as I get some cash, I'm going to go get a lawnmower and take back to old Joe that I stole his lawnmower and say, look, I am so sorry. I was out of my head when I was doing this, and I'm acknowledging I did you wrong, and this is the best I can do. All right? So what is a direct amends, too? Because I think this is really, because that's really the encouragement. If I have done Clay wrong, do I send him a text?
No. Well, it depends on what the situation is.
How big
My-
his fist is.
Hey, meet me for coffee.
Okay, if it's setting up something like that, but if it's, sorry, dude,
No.
that doesn't count. That doesn't count as amends. Now, if it's back to this, unless causing pain, there may be a time when a text or an email, like, okay, I know if we get eyeball to eyeball, it's not going to go well, but I want you to at least say what I can say and say, sorry, man, and maybe sometimes maybe it's, hey, I'm really sorry, can we get together and talk about it and see where that goes? But just taking the time in a modern technology age to get your phone and say, I'm gonna knock this out tonight, man.
Do a chain message.
I'm gonna well, or even just say I'm gonna do
A group message.
or copy and paste even. I'm gonna come up with a generic. I'm sorry, whatever, and I'll just one at a time. I'll send it to everybody I need to.
Copy
Well,
and paste it and just delete the name and add the
Yeah,
next one.
it's like, okay, first of all,
I can show
if
you
you're
how to
doing
do
that,
that.
you're probably not going to be able to own the specific thing.
Right.
But like if I've hurt Clay, if I know I have, be man or woman enough to work out a situation where you can get eyeballs. I'm sorry, man.
It's called
I can't make it up. All I can do is I'm sorry. And go, it's a direct amends. It's like, I'm going to get in the same vicinity where we can deal with this and not just send text, email, not even phone stuff. Unless, I would agree with what Laurie said, maybe the text or the phone call is to set up a meeting. And maybe it's even to say, look, I got to come clean with you on some stuff. When would be a good time? I don't want to just like invade your space. When would be a good time for us to get together?
There might be people that are states away,
Yeah, well, that's part of it too. Is like,
so you may not be able to.
like if I was,
Face to face.
or that you truly,
Video chat.
I can see plenty of scenarios where there would be people on your list from step 8, and you truly don't know where they're at.
Yeah.
It happened so long ago. They've moved, and they may have moved 3 times. And so but once again, what was the original thing? Be willing to make amends.
Yes.
And you could write that letter.
If you do know where they are, you could say, look, this is heartfelt, whatever. But whenever possible, I need to get in my brother's face and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that this went this way. Because there is, but also, I think it's important for us to, what's the difference between an apology and amends? Say it louder, Sean Allen.
Action.
All right. An apology is words, spoken or written. Spoken or written. Amends is taking those words and doing something with them, letting it be said. Because how many of you have apologized 1,000 times?
Over.
To your mama, your daddy, your girlfriend, your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your kids, whatever, and you said, I'm sorry 1,000 times, all right, or somewhere close to that. And then you say it for the 1,001st time, and they look at you and like,
Well, that's generous. I wouldn't have made it that far.
you're like, well, yeah, heard that before. And then you get ticked off because they act like they don't believe you. Well, would you believe you? Do you actually believe you when you say it? But the action, like Sean said, the action is, I've said I'm sorry, and I'm going to let my actions show it. I'm going to be a different person. And we give them the space to watch and to see. Oh, it might have took this time. Because the words are important. I was just talking with a young lady before I came upstairs that's getting married this fall, and I was talking about the importance of all the 3-word statements that are critically important to a marriage. I love you, obviously, but I'm sorry. Please forgive me. That's my, well, no, what was the other one? That's my false 4 words. But there's a lot of those, just, I did it. I did it. I am sorry. Please forgive me. And those same things that I coach couples in marriage work in this. And so the words are significant. I don't want to downplay the words, but words without action are cheap. They're the same things that, if we're honest with ourselves, we've said a whole bunch of times before and haven't been able to back it up. You know? So, the difference between amends and apology is actually taking words and putting them into action. There are times when, as we've already been saying, where amends are not advisable. It's just, it's not the right time, and honestly, I know scenarios where it's never going to be the right time. That there's some stuff that's gone under the bridge that 2 people just don't need to be in the same space ever again. I think there is a time there when you can actually participate or do what I call, and some other people call, a living amends. You know, that's like, I can't make it right with Sean Allen, because we just don't ever need to be in each other's space ever again. But I can make amends by living so that what separated us will never separate me from anybody else. And I'm just going to live out a different kind of life. Okay? Now, maybe if it was me and Sean, maybe he hears about that, maybe he sees that in action, and although we're so distant, but after a while he's seen that, and maybe then it opens up a door that wasn't open, 10 years ago even, and it makes it possible. And understand that, guys, this is big, all right? This is big. amends is not reconciliation.
Word.
That's huge. You can ask for forgiveness. They can grant their forgiveness and never want to be with you another day in their life. And that's hard. But that's reality. Because what I think sometimes causes problems, and it's not necessarily in the world of addiction, sometimes we hurt people so bad with the things that we do that we don't even know how bad we hurt them. Somebody might tell us and we really don't know how bad. And that sometimes we say and do things to people that we might as well have killed them because we did kill their spirit. And we need to own that. We need to apologize for that. And let God work out if it's ever going to bring us back to reconciliation. Because I can smell a reconciliation amends a mile away. I sit in rooms with couples that are working through their issue, and once again, I've seen it go both ways. He or she is, I'm sorry. I know this is what I did, this is what I did. I know. I'll never do it again. I know. And all they're hoping for is moving back home tonight. And reconciliation amends don't work. Not long term. Not long term. And that person can smell it a mile away. You know why? Because chances are, the reason that it's this way, there was a time when maybe it's your mom, and she really loved you. She gave birth to you. She loved you. And you took her to the cleaners. And she's living on food stamp now because you went there and I love you, I forgive you, but no, you ain't coming back to my house, ever. Maybe it's a spouse. We've got to be okay, because part of our recovery is understanding our recovery is for us. And that we are no good to anyone else unless we are the best person we can be. And so when we start making amends, and we start, I know on, maybe not the specific day, but I know that 2 years ago, I said this, I did this, whatever, and it's obvious. We know we're doing. And sometimes we don't even understand the level of hurt that we caused and the wound that we caused. And it's not going to get better. It's not. You've got to be working on you. The only way it's ever going to get better is if you're working on you so hard that you're the best version of you that there could possibly be walking on the earth. And that's true whether you are friends with that person, whether you are dating that person, whether you're married to that person, whether that person gave birth to you or fathered you, whatever that relationship is, that relationship won't heal if you're not the best you, and you got to be able to be the best you even if that relationship doesn't heal. That's hard. That's hard stuff. But that's when healing really does happen. That's when healing really does happen. Right? That's why, in recovery, and some of you guys have been in this journey with me, and that's long have heard me talking about why I am so tough on people getting into relationships. Because here's what addicts do. I stop using, I got to fill a void. Okay, I got to find a man, I got to find a woman. And
Can I interject?
you can, I may or may not agree with you.
Sometimes that's your problem to begin with.
A lot of times it is. Because you know what about addictions, Lori? Almost every addiction is co-occurring with something else. Yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah. Say it louder for the person in the back.
Addictions
Not singular.
are they're really close to always co-occurring.
Maybe for you.
Here, you know the biggest one that's co-occurring?
Codependency.
Bingo. Bingo.
Struggle. Real life struggle.
Bingo. And that's why, okay, and here's David, that's why that relationship piece is like, it always gets in there. Because it's, if I don't have this to do with all my guys, all my girls, whatever, whoever you're shooting up, doing whatever with, if I don't have, then what am I going to do?
Gotta fix somebody.
I'll find somebody. And hey,
Train somebody with
who do a lot of addicts pick to be that person?
the opposite sex.
Yeah, well, yeah, but
Hopefully.
another addict. So that when
Go to a meeting to meet one.
So that when you crash, guess what?
You both crash.
They crash together. And so people that are like enrolled at Dennis or Christina or I play or Judy, and we're like, whoa, slow your jets. And they're like, you just don't want me to be happy. You just don't want me to be happy. No, that's what I want more than anything else. I want you to be healthy first, happy second. And all I'm doing is I've got enough miles on the odometer. I can see what this train's about to do. And it's not pleasant. And so as I'm going to get the train back on the track. So what I was saying is, as you're making amends with people, your amends has to be separate from reconciliation with whoever or whatever. Because if it's for a ulterior motive, even if you think it's right, it never is. You've got to deal with you and then let God take care of the rest of it. Okay? Man, I got a little preachy there, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Oh, it's good.
I'm sorry.
It's good.
Hate it when the preacher gets preachy.
Yeah, it's like I'm breathing, okay?
You're right, though. I realized with a man and my sponsor.
Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
exactly.
I wish I would have listened.
yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. A few of you guys that have been in recovery and had a bunch of years and time, and then the train got off the track again. Part of why I say these things is, without knowing specifics, although I know a few, but without knowing all your, I just know. I mean, I've heard it too many times. I've seen it too many times. And so now, part of, let's jump ahead 3 steps just for a moment. Dennis even talked about it, that carrying the message. All right? Some of you vets, even if the train got off the track and you're getting it back on the track, but you're a vet, you've been through this before. That's one of the biggest messages you need to carry to in your case, other women. Say, like, slow your roll. You don't need him as much as you think you need him. And to guys, like, hey, stay away from her. That's not a good thing. And talking to each other, because let's face it.
It's the truth. Most people don't want to hear the truth.
Well, and they especially don't want to hear it from me. They don't want to hear it. Preaching. You just sit down, shut up.
Or they're going to hear from you. And
Can you save it for Sunday?
From a preacher, they hear it from someone else who's
They
sitting
hear
in
from us
there.
and they still
I
disagree.
know, well, and that's true. That's still not
Yeah.
on their level. If they hear from somebody on their level, then
And-
They hear from me, they're gonna be like, whoa.
Right.
Well, but here part of it too. Before we get, but here part of it too is, like in your case, Amanda and others, some people are going to hear from you, and they're going to say, "I don't give a crap,"
That's true.
because you know what they're going to say? Because I'm not you.
Yeah.
And what they're implying is, I'm better than you. I can handle it. I can handle it. You know, why is it that when somebody goes out here and ODs and dies from a bad batch, and what's everybody want? A piece of that batch. You know, is that the stupidest thing that you've
Stupidest
ever
thing
heard?
I've seen in my life.
But you know what people are implying?
That they can handle it.
I'm better than Rob. Robert's soft. That's why I got him. I can take that. It ain't gonna bother me. Or it's gonna be. It must be a good high. He just couldn't handle it, or she just couldn't handle it. And so some people, even when we make the best warnings, when we're begging them, aren't gonna hear it.
Right.
but we still need to make the warning. You know, when we see the train coming down the track, we need to tell somebody that headlight isn't going to be a pleasant. That's not going to be a pleasant reunion when you meet that headlight. All right. So direct amends are not always advisable. Sometimes it's just living amends of making it the better. And if it means exposing ourselves to trigger moments, I've got so many people that are really, really close to me that were doing everything they could to help other people, and they put themselves in the wrong place with the wrong people at the wrong time. And all of a sudden, disaster. All of a sudden, disaster. I'm at the point in my life now, I could go in any place and belly up to the bar next to anybody, any guy that's in there, and have a talk. And I ain't touching nothing they shove to me. But there was a season many decades ago when that would have led to disaster. All right? And so we've got to make sure that as we're making amends, like if your amends is drug related, you don't need to go to the trap house to make the amends.
Right.
All right? All right?
Write that down.
Yeah.
Not the address.
You know.
Write the information
Yeah.
down.
Yeah. And if you're unsure about the address,
You don't need to,
Run-
don't drive over in the middle of the
I'll just tell you, if you're unsure about the address and it's in Shelby County, run it past me. I'll tell you if it's a good one or not.
Another piece of advice, don't do it amends like that at 1, 2 in the morning either.
Yeah,
with one headlight.
yeah. Because you were laying there, I was laying there in bed at night, Dave, and I just couldn't sleep. It was bothering me so bad, so I was going to find Robert no matter where he was. And I was like, you idiot. What were you thinking? Because if you find Robert awake at 1 or 2 in the morning, guess what?
Something's up.
Something is up. All right. So don't put yourself in bad situations. All right, man. This is good stuff, but I'm never going to get through.
The amends that you make by like helping someone else.
Besides Wednesday
Or
nights, I'm in bed by
My
8.
sponsor tells me like I take lots of money.
bro.
You know,
40
because I
hits
don't
quick.
go around those people collecting that money.
Nope.
I take it as a loss.
Yep.
Those amends make by helping someone else or
Yep.
something else.
Bingo.
Yes.
Some things you just,
That's like-
that's old me.
Don't do it.
That's old me. Because it's not going to lead, it's not going to end well.
Never
You're
does.
putting yourself in that bad spot. Now, while I can go into any bar in the state of Kentucky and I ain't worried about it. Ain't no way I'm going in Dairy Queen without getting a blizzard. All right? And that's me.
That's a great
That's me
That's a
being
great
me,
example.
all right?
I love that analogy.
So if right now I'm saying, okay, this year I'm going to work on this, I got to stay out of Dairy Queen. But doggone, they got drive-throughs, and that makes all kinds of problems.
Makes it so much. Man, they got DoorDash now.
Yeah, DoorDash. Yeah. I know people have been doing DoorDash since before.
And offers to bring you some, you need
All right,
to get
all right. I got to get back. I'm so far off. All right, I got to get back over there. All right. Some of this I've already covered in talking. I knew it well enough that we just talked about it. Yeah, this whole point. What if? How do we deal with it if we've prayed about it, we've made the list, we've prayed about it, we've waited for the right time, we go, and we walk away from that moment and we think, wow, that couldn't have gone any better. That was awesome. They received what I was saying and I feel good about that. And the relationship gets worse. You say, Kelly?
It wasn't meant to be.
Just gotta learn to accept
Have you
things.
done what you needed to do in that scenario?
Right.
You've done what you needed to do. You've done the right thing. I think that's why it is important that you've got everything planned out. I think amends, once again, there are various levels, and you know, we don't have to coach on which, I mean, you just know some things are, that's a big, this is big, this is big. I think those big ones ought to be as scripted out as you can humanly make it. The time, the place, what you're going to say, that it's on point and that it's focused. And then when you're done, it's over and you leave. You leave. Because that person, whoever it is, needs time to process. And you need to leave. And then if they have that time and it still doesn't get better, once again, we're back to, you did what you needed to do. The ball's on their side of the court now. And you did what you need to do, and that's all you can control. Anybody in here ever tried to control somebody? Am I the only one?
No.
No.
You did.
Yeah, just me. All right. Hi, my name's Dave. I'm a controller. And the only one I control is me. And so we deal with that, and if they don't handle it and things get worse, you gotta lay your head down and know, I did what I could do. I did what I can do. We work through this as our staff. When I'm leading our staff, and like a big deal for us is if you come in and worship with us on Sunday, you know, unless we just know, okay, you know, you were here because your niece or your, you know, if you're old enough, your grandchild was getting baptized, and you were here that day for that. But for the most part, if you come here, you know, our hope is that this becomes your home church, and that you start. And so we strategically, as staff, we keep track of, okay, you know, where are they on that continuum? And what I tell the staff is, you can't make anybody accept Jesus. You can't make anybody join a church. Where I'm going to say that, and I hold the staff accountable, is that what we have to make sure we do is that we didn't drop the ball that we had our hands on. That we follow up to the extent that we can, and that then when you've done that, and you know you've made a phone call, you've followed up, hey, is everything okay, whatever, if they don't, then lay your head down on a pillow at night and go to sleep. Because you've done what you can do. Now, if you've got people in your small group or in our children's ministry, you got kids that came 2 or 3 weeks and then haven't seen them for 3 months, and you didn't call and ask if everything's okay, that's on you. And as the leader of staff, I'm going to hold you accountable. But if you called up and you sent some postcards and you followed up and they just never came back, you did all you can do. And that's where I think we are in this, is in making amends. We do all we can do, and then we lay our head down on the pillow at night and go to sleep. And not laying there worrying about it, because I've done what I can do. One of the questions that I saw as I was studying for this, asked the thing, should I do step 8 alone? We've already talked about that. I'm going to take it a step further. I don't think you should do step 9 alone. Now, you may be the only one present at the scene of the amends, but as you're working through this, if Ken was my sponsor and I had to go make amends to someone, and especially if it was one of those biggies, or if he's just my friend, my accountability partner, you better believe, at least for me, and I think it's wise for you, I'm going to be calling and say, hey, Ken, today is the day. I'm going to meet Jerry at 2 o'clock. Would you be praying? Would you be covering that meeting in prayer? So that physically Ken might not be there, but I'm not alone. Follow me? Mm-hmm. That we've got people that are helping us make the list, and that we have those trusted people that when, especially the big ones, that we know this might not go well.
Not knowing the outcome. Right?
Yeah, this might not go well. That you have people in your corner praying so that you're walking in not alone. Okay? That I think is critically important, all right? What's the best way to make amends? Face to face, for the most part. But when we were talking about that, we kind of agreed that not always. So here's where I was gonna go with this, and when I put this in my notes is, there isn't a perfect way for everyone.
It's not the same way for everyone,
Yep.
everyone who lives here.
Yeah. Part of it, what are the variables? What are the variables? Hmm? Safety is a variable.
Distance.
What, Caleb?
Causes more pain.
Does cause more pain. What are two huge variables in amends?
Freedom and distance.
Okay, yeah. What about you and the other person?
Yeah, that's what.
You and that other person are variables because when you make your list, and let's say you've got 10 people that you need to talk to, chances are all 10 of them are different. Not just different people, but the way you approach it is going to be, and the way you handle it. So that's why I think you're a variable, and the person's a variable, and then because of you and that person in that relationship, safety could very well be a variable. How are they going to react? Don't, especially if you physically aren't 100% confident you can handle yourself. Like, don't put yourself in a bad spot. And so that's why I don't think there is, while we gave you a template of ways to make the list, what we can't give you a template of, and here's how you do this.
Right.
Because there's a lot of variables.
I think the most important part of it is to seek God's leadership in, like you said, opening the door for those opportunities to present themselves and not busting through a door, but always to go in prayer first
Yeah.
and let God lead you to that amendment.
And role play with someone.
That person. How's this going to go? If I say this, and because I try, and I'm not really good at it. I'll tell you who's really good at it here on our state. Jason, and some of you all that attend church here, when the weeks that Jason preaches on Friday or Saturday, when nobody's around, he stands on the stage and does the whole sermon with nobody in the room. And I'm just like, that's not good for me. But I do try to read through it enough and talk through it. And then sometimes if there is a spot in what I'm going to talk about that I'm just not confident about, I'll say it out loud, even if I'm in my truck. Because there's something about when I hear it, actually audibly hear it, it's different than when I put it on paper.
Right.
And so whether it's an actual role play or I'm going to say this out loud and see how it sounds. I'm going to see I remember as a young knucklehead guy that liked pretty girls, and I'm trying to, get a date. I said some of the dumbest stuff.
We're ready.
I said some of the
Times I said, "Man,
dumbest
this sounded
stuff.
better in my head."
And it was like, have you ever been in those spots where you wish you were a cartoon that had that what you said was in a bubble, and you could grab it and put it back in? It was like the moment it comes out of your mouth, you're like, I can't believe I just said that. Well, if we're not careful, we can do that in amends, and that's where role playing, or at least speaking it through, can okay, yeah, that sounds right, versus, no, they might slug me if I say that. Especially, and if I say it in that tone, and understanding how to, so there is no best way, perfect way. The constant in it was what Christine said, and that's what I was going to, the constant in amends needs to be, what's God telling you to do? And have you surrendered how you do it to Him as well as your need to do it? And let Him lead in that, all right? And then here's the big one I'm going to finish with, and we may not have small groups after all, but we kind of had it in here while we were talking with a lot of discussion. How soon should I start to make amends once I'm sober?
I would say when you're able.
When time presents itself.
Anybody else?
Once you get to that
So
step,
when a time presents itself.
Huh?
just from my experience in working with some folks, if like you said, if the wounds are so raw that by pursuing amends at this point, it sends you back into a bad place. You really need to seek wise counsel and stuff in positions like that, rather than to proceed with caution. So I would say it's so individual, but if there are some wounds that are still causing to reel in your mind and put you in a bad place, you shouldn't move forward at that time. You need to be well, and you need to have strength, and you need to have a team to help you through it. It's not gonna be easy. Sorry.
That was some verbal gold right there.
Yeah.
All right.
I would add to that, Dave, that these steps are listed 1 through 12 for a reason. And you don't want to get ahead of the steps. You know, you definitely don't want to start this amends process until you have yourself in a good place and you get through that 1 through 7 step. And then, even once you get to 8 and 9 and you're doing the amends and the victims list, that still doesn't mean you're necessarily ready for that step. Each person on that list, you need to really evaluate and see what that relationship's like.
It's like Christine said, it's something you do for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Like when God presents the time. Amends are something that I don't think you ever really are done with.
Yeah.
And you can make amends and not have put on the person, or, because I just looked at mine again, and there's still, I mean, one of the people that I need to make amends to is dead.
Yeah.
And I guarantee they were not on my first list for making amends when I did it a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And so now we're gonna figure out a way to do
But,
that.
but you get to a point too, when you do something, you screwed up, you instantly confess,
Mhm.
you instantly make the amends, and you know, it all sort of happens all at once because you become aware of what you're doing.
Mhm.
Step 10.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and it goes the same way with forgiveness.
yeah.
Somebody hurts you, you get a little, ooh, and then instantly you forget. They don't need to make amends to you, but you move on.
And typically, I agree with you completely. Typically, those are what I would say lesser issues that I just caught myself, something we said, you know, maybe something we did. You know, and the worst kind of apology or amends or whatever is, I'm really sorry that what I did hurt you.
That's not an apology.
Yeah, who's that putting the blame on?
Yeah.
Victims.
Yeah.
So much
Yeah.
of this step, though, I think, is bringing to light a lot of the things that we have stuffed under a rug, or we were not cognizant of at the time of our craziness. So there are things that aren't maybe a daily occurrence. These are things that we have failed to address, or we refuse to address because they're hurtful and they're painful. So all of them got bagged, they got stuffed, they got brushed under a rug, and now as you're getting well, you're realizing, in order to be completely well, I have to forgive others, forgive myself, and ask God to forgive me for all of these things. And He will, He already has. So I think they're bigger picture
Oh.
items.
So this thing, we could be on this for weeks just on this one thing. You know, one of the issues too, I think that goes right along with that, Christine, is your personality versus the other person. You know, what you did that just, like, you might as well have taken a saw and cut that person's legs off. If they had done it to you, it wouldn't have been a big deal. To you, it was like that. I don't know why, but understanding that to them, it was huge.
Right.
What you did was you might as well have cut their legs off because it was that big. And so I think that's why sometimes taking the time to realize how big this is, not rushing. I wrote this down in the last paragraph of the notes I had typed down, was rushing it might ruin it. Rushing it might ruin it. Now,
I'll say that kind of goes back on trying to do everything on your time instead of being patient about things and allowing God to work things out.
by the same token, you might get surprised. I've made up my mind that I'm ready, and I'm going to say, when the time's right, I'm going to say something to Robert. I'm going to apologize. I'm going to make amends. And I'm saying, God, just open the door when you want me to go through. But I think it's going to, but in your mind, you think it's going to take a while. It's going to take 6 months, it's gonna take a year, whatever. And all of a sudden, 2 months into it, you're face to face with that person. Don't, because you've created a timeline that says, I think it's gonna take 6 months. Don't miss the opportunity if it does present itself to you early, but don't rush and force it.
Right.
Because then, if God opens that door and I know that I need to say something to Robert, I'm like, okay, it's in 6 months. Wait a minute, we still got 4 months till I get there. And all of a sudden we're in a situation where it's just the two of us. And he knows what I did, and I know what I did, but we still got 4 months, dude. I can't talk to you yet.
Right?
You know, then he's going to walk away from that scenario going,
Well,
you
just
jerk.
missed your divine appointment, as I would call it.
Yeah,
You missed the calling of the Spirit.
So-
God put you there, He put him there, and you don't wanna miss it.
So don't, so it's the balance. Don't rush it, but don't miss an opportunity. All right? And just keep doing it. Keep doing it. And who on this planet can you control?
Nobody. Or yourself.
I don't think you want to procrastinate or kick the can down the road. If you prayed about it and the opportunity comes, take advantage of it.
If you're sure the opportunity's there, but you don't want to kick the can down the road, but you don't want to kick the door open.
Right.
Because it will not work well.
The best thing that's been said is that it's individualized.
Yep.
It's the severity of the amends, it's the severity of what you've done. All of that goes into each different
It
person.
all factors.
Like I'm gonna make amends to my mom or my grandparents before I do my wife.
Yep.
And that's because, just like you said, you need that separation. We're going to the same house, fortunately.
Yeah, praise God.
Yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to what you did to each person, how many times you did it, the separate, number of things that you did. Like I said, the severity of it in general and that relationship you have with the person. It's all completely different, each one of them.
Yeah.
I had some amends within 2 to 3 months 7 years ago, and I had some that took me a year to get through. But as long as you keep doing it and keep working on yourself, eventually it all comes together.
Because here's a dynamic. How many of you got kids? Right? How many of you ever told a child, don't do something? Right? How much did they want to do it after you told them don't do it?
20 times more than what they was doing.
All right. So that's just part of it.
It's
And so
funny, I use
sometimes the
reverse
more we
psychology
tell
too. Don't eat that.
somebody
It's just like,
don't, the more they want
Don't
to.
eat it.
Here's the dynamic that I want to leave you with. Flip that around. Just like we tell our kids, and we kind of all, if you depending on how you do it, you can almost push somebody to do something. All right. You can also push people away by trying to work this too fast. That no matter how sincere you are, if they aren't ready for it, and you force yourself into that situation, into that space, you might not get a second chance. Because you'll just drive them away. Because once again, how many times have we said, I'm sorry to most of those people? A whole bunch. And so they've got to see some change to be ready to receive and to move forward.
That's what let me hear.
Huh?
That's what let me hear.
Yeah. And those people, and understanding that all these people we have to make amends to, almost all of them love us deeply. That's why we need to make amends. It's like a month ago or whatever when Kyle Tipton was here and talking about law enforcement and talking about how much they want to see people that they've had to put in the back seat of their car, how much they want to see them get well and get better, and why so many of them are following. And some of you guys probably don't tip firsthand. It can get really ugly really quick. Really quick. But I've been in the cook. Huh? Yeah. I know. But I've been in the car with him when we've pulled over on the side of the road. He's prayed for people that are in the back seat. I've witnessed it firsthand, and not just him. Several of our other guys that are driving around tonight with bubbles on their hood. That they got a job to do, and you cross the line, game on. They can do it. And a lot of them, what people don't realize, and I didn't realize until I got so close and so closely involved in it, how many of those guys go home at night after dealing with some of us, and it's everything they can do not to tie one on to cope with what's going on in their mind and the worry and the stress. And it's the same thing with those people that are on your list. They want you to do well. That's why the hurt is so bad. They want you to do well. But, so, anyway, no small group tonight. I got Dennis off the hook. I was going to turn that over to him. So, hang out and talk to each other, for a while. I would say, like, right here in this room, if you're a guy and don't have any good phone numbers in your phone, don't leave here tonight without getting at least another dude's phone number. You ladies, don't leave here tonight if you don't have one. I think most of you all do. But make sure you've got some phone numbers and just spend some time, because if I'm asking Robert for his phone number because I want to count on him to someone that'll help me if I need it, I'm also counting that if he needs it, I'll help him. And then it's a two-way street here. And then once you get it doesn't matter how many digits you got on your phone if you don't dial them.
And you
Alright.
stop after the first one if they don't answer.
Yeah, and if I'm one of your guys, please have some more. Please have some more. Because it's not that I don't care, but I end up in situations I can't answer the phone. I can't answer the phone. And I got what got in my mind right now that, well, I called you 1,000,000 times. Like, yeah, and I kept sending back in a meeting. And we had talked about you need to have 5 numbers so that you could call the next guy down on the list. I'll call you back, but I might not, because sometimes that meeting I'm in is in a courtroom up here, and Hickman's going to light me up if I answer the phone. So you got to have some people that you got to have that stuff. So that's it. Let's get out of here. Thanks for being here, and have a good week.